Join us today for more BattleTech Kickstarter updates and a partial look at one product afterwards. Welcome back to those of you who've been here before. Welcome to those of you who are new to the channel. This is going to be a BattleTech video as the book that I hope you can see in the frame somewhere in this general region.
No, I cut the table out for this video.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to see it till I edit it, so maybe you did. In which case, look up here, because there'll be a giant BattleTech picture or something up here now. That will go in editing. Along with the little thing that's down there right now that talks about our Twitter account. So, unless I forget to put it in editing, in which case we'll look really foolish in this video. So, fingers crossed. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about the 5th and 6th previews that are now out. We're going to do the whole jump to the computer screen here in a moment. And then there's one novel that there's a little blurb for we'll talk about at the very end. So, here we go. Get this guy out of the way. I wish there was some way to do that preemptively without recording this all the time, but anyway, here we go. So, as you can see, we have the same opening picture we've had for the other four.
Technically, that's a different color background. I noticed it when you were downloading it.
Huh.
All the backgrounds here are a slightly different shade.
Huh. Okay, well, 1 point to Chad. But just remember, like, whose line is it anyway? The score does not matter. So,
Here I was hoping it was.
So the second page looks the same to my untrained eye, but maybe I'm missing something.
Ah, it looks about the same.
So on to the actual preview. Today we'll be looking at the Devastator, which it will be the battle mech on the top of the picture here, and it will be found in the Mercenaries box set. And then the Shrek PPC carrier is the tank in the lower part.
Is that Shrek or Shrek?
It's Shrek, I believe is how you pronounce that. And that will be in the Assault and Cavalry Force Pack. If it's like the other vehicles, I believe there will be 2 copies in that set. I'm not going to lie, I don't know a whole lot about the Devastator, but the Shrek is a tank that I have several of in metal because, well, it's got 3 particle pulse cannons on it, and it's a tank. So, it could really ruin your day. However, based on outward appearances, I would say the Devastator could as well. Because it looks like a really beefed up version of the Warhammer just at first glance.
It looks like it's got 4 PPCs on it.
Yeah, definitely energy somethings and some missile pods up on the shoulders it looks like. So, moving on. We have some old artwork here for the Devastator. And this first appeared in the McCarran's Armored Cavalry Scenario Pack. And then Dwayne Luce, whose name I believe we've heard several times by now, did the actual artwork for Technical Readout 3058. Minor side note, McCarran's Armored Cavalry was a mercenary unit up to a certain point in time. Then they became a house unit for House Lau. And that's where they are at the moment in the timeline. However, they're probably going to be featuring their mercenary roots in this because it's a Mercenaries Kickstarter campaign. Then it looks like Dwayne Luce also did the color illustration of the Shrek, which was in TRO 3026. And yeah, and like it says here, it's an 80-ton tank. So it's an assault tank, which that's also a thing. The vehicles use the same tonnage brackets as the mechs. At least the tanks do, anyway. Because there are 100-ton assault tanks, like the Mars assault tank.
I have that in metal.
Yeah, it's a beast.
It moves too.
Yeah.
It is slow.
So moving on from the original artwork, here we have the updated sketch work. And then let's see. Yeah, it looks like they just kind of went with the first sketch they had based on a little description right here, because the base unit was pretty good to begin with. They just kind of had to update the sensibilities to it to match the other new things.
What? The waist ain't so wide?
Yeah, I mean, and like there's more armor plates instead of just the giant
And
solid
the
plates, and
head where the cockpit is looks more substantial.
yeah. So moving on, the Shrek. Yeah, on this one, like I said, just stayed fairly true to the original design.
By the way, is that a rocket launcher on the side of the Shrek?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Or is that like a chaff system, pretty much?
It could be. There's a lot of things on here that probably don't actually come into play in the game itself, but that are detailed in like the technical readouts. Like that's probably an anti-personnel weapon there in the front, the little dome on the left. It's probably a machine gun.
It honestly just looked like a camera to me.
I mean it could be, but I know I've seen on other vehicles where that's a weapon of some kind. You know,
I'd like to point out where the driver sits, it doesn't look like there's enough room for a guy to sit.
the tank's probably taller than we're thinking, but you're from everything I understand, from the one person I talked to that actually served in a tank crew, it's pretty tight in there. Think less Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and more like
Being buried in a coffin?
yeah, pretty much. So moving on here, here's the 3D render and
Ooh.
like the artwork, kind of with a background image to it there.
I don't think those are missile pods on the top. I think those are
Yeah,
just
they
sensors.
probably are. Looking at this picture, the other one they looked like missile pods to me, but I think you're right. Which, if I remember right, actually kind of also falls in line with the Warhammer. One of its square thing, rectangle things are definitely like sensors. All right,
Yeah,
so
because I wouldn't put missiles on a energy machine.
moving on. Here's the 3D render for the Shrek. It's not a whole lot to really say there. Moving on. Now here we see them painted up, and the mech is painted up for the St. Ives Lancers.
The second St.
Yeah,
Ives
second St. Ives
Lancers.
Lancers, and the tank for the 21st Centauri Lancers. Now the St. Ives, I could very much be mistaken because that's one of the little parts of Capellan history I'm not too well versed in. But I know the St. Ives Compact, I believe, broke away at some point. So I don't know if that was a unit that existed before or after that, or how that all works out. But they definitely broke away at some point. Just a little side note there. So moving on, here we have some artwork as if it were in the as if it were in the TRO, and yeah, as I call it down here, the glory shot. Don't know if I'd gone for that particular phrase, but you know, looks pretty cool. Same thing here with the Shrek, with it in action. Presumably
Okay,
getting ready to
that's not where the driver's at.
presumably getting
The
ready to
little
waste
dome.
something.
There's the where the driver sits.
Yeah. Well, it could still be an entry hatch.
Yeah.
So then going on, here we have actual production models. And it confirms that the mech is a 100-ton battle mech there. And then the tank, you can see that the turret's repositionable. So going on, then here we have them painted up as the well, we have the battle mech painted up for the Aerodani Light Horse, and likewise with the Shrek here. Then, so I'm guessing that means that we're going to have a preview for not that the sorry folks, I'll build up for the wrong preview. But the one I'm thinking of is next, I'm sure. This is which Ill Clan recognition guide the Devastator could be found in, which is volume 28. then the Shrek PPC carrier will be found in Volume 32, which was not published at the time this was put out. Although I think it is now. So they barely missed the cutoff there. And then, yeah, here we go. Mercenary Tales number 2, Innocent and Defenseless. This involves the Aerodani Light Horse and Star League. And, yeah. So it has the symbol indicating it's a Star League era story. And I don't know why they're listed as separate units, because the Aerodani Light Horse were Star League units who did not go with Kerensky. Then they became mercenaries. As far as I know, they were not known as the Aerodani Light Horse under the Star League.
Weren't they mercenaries before the Star League as well, though?
No, they were a group of Star League soldiers who stayed behind and became the Aerodani Light Horse.
Oh.
To the best of my knowledge. In fact, that's caused some confusion on the forums, because the description for this calls them mercenaries through and through, and the author basically said, look, just read the book, you'll understand. But I haven't read it yet because it's a short story, and they're going to combine them all into a print copy at some point, and that's the one I'll read, because I prefer print copies.
Maybe it's about the formation of the Aerodani Light Horses.
Could be that there's like a lot of flash backwards and forwards or something, and in the majority of it they're the mercenaries, but it flashes back to the other. There's plenty of potential stories to explain it. So then here are the upcoming ones. March 10th, we'll have Perception of Victory, which will involve the Highlanders and the Republic, and based on the little symbol there, that's a Dark Age storyline. Then April 10th, it'll be the Rasselhag Dominion, and I believe that's Hansen's Rough Riders. And that symbol would indicate that this one will be an Ill Clan era story. So that'll be the current era. And yeah, these are all short stories, by the way, folks, which at the moment are only available in PDF. But like I said, they are going to they're supposed to compile them into a print copy once they're done. So then we see the Aerodani Light Horse Hunter Lance, which should be available now at Barnes & Noble, along with No Greater Honor, which is similar to what I was just talking about, is a compilation of stories about the Aerodani Light Horse from kind of throughout their history. Or possibly just the Dark Age, if I'm seeing, or I don't know, I can't tell if it's a Dark Age symbol or an Atlas head.
That looks like an Atlas head to me.
Yeah, it's probably just the Atlas head. So it's probably not from a specific era. It's probably throughout their history. So I haven't picked it up yet, so I don't know. I'm just speculating. Probably shouldn't do that. I have not picked up this set just yet. The main reason I plan on picking it up is for the Sagittaire, which is the mech in the lower left-hand corner that kind of looks like the upper half of a fighter jet with way too many guns strapped to it. So, yeah. Then you'll also note the mech above and to its right, of the middle two, it's the higher one. There's a bunch of stuff back behind it. That's because the mech is in jumping mode with its jump jets firing. And you can remove the exhaust plume. You can remove the mech from the exhaust plume and remove the exhaust plume from the base and put the mech back on the base if you don't want it to be in jumping mode. And whenever I say that, I don't mean with like a knife or anything. Like all the pieces come apart and go back together the way they're supposed to.
No. Why wouldn't you want it in jumping mode? It looks cool.
I'm sure it does look cool, but maybe you don't want to paint the flames or something, or you don't want it to be in jump mode for some reason. You just want an alternate stance for the, I believe it's a Griffin. So, I don't know. There's reasons. But anyway, that's that. And then, mentioning the pre-launch page yet again, which you should definitely check out. And yeah, that is it for Preview 5.
By the way, Bobby.
Yes.
You know what's going to be the best paint job for the Devastator?
Not offhand.
Neon green and purple.
Why?
Devastator from G1
No.
Transformers.
I get it. That's what the sigh was. I get it.
That's why.
The sigh and the head shaking. That's what those were. No. It finally clicked. I got it.
But I am serious. That's going to be the best paint job for it, folks.
Devastator. No, Devastator needs to be like cobbled together bits and pieces of several construction mod mechs. All right, so we're going to exit full screen here and jump to preview number 6. And yeah, Chad was right. There really is a different background color. So, Chad, you can do a victory lap on that one.
No, the point I got just matters now.
All right, so yeah, so the same deal here again, except for the background. Uh, Same page here. So let's jump into the preview itself. Well, today it's going to be the Star Slayer, apparently, which is what's on the cover,
And the Galleon
and
light tank,
and
which
the
is
tank.
on the cover.
So yeah, so both of these will be in the box set. Actually, if you look at the cover of the box set, just to the side of the Star Slayer is the Devastator on the left.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's see what we got here. Oh my God,
That Star Slayer, how is it standing?
I
One, of those legs look so thin. Two, that left leg look like it ain't going to support anything anymore.
yeah. So, getting into the notes here, apparently, like the Devastator, this originally appeared in the McCarran's Armored Cavalry Scenario Pack, and then got the Dwayne Luce treatment for TRO 3058. And then the Galleon Light Tank appeared in TRO 3025 and was featured in numerous illustrations from house books and scenario packs. And yeah, so I'm actually kind of beginning to wonder if the box set isn't going to be in a McCarran's Armored Cavalry box set at this point. So, yeah, just soak in that Star Slayer goodness there before I move on, folks. Just imagine if that would have been the miniature. Actually, you don't have to. Go to Ironwood Metals. That is the miniature there.
Yeah.
Actually, it looks a little bit better than this because I've looked at it before and thought
Well,
about
they
buying
actually
one.
had to make it to where it could stand up.
You haven't put very many of those together, I can tell.
You put enough super glue on a mini, it'll stand up.
Yeah, for those of you out there who want a real challenge, buy the Metal Marauder 2C and let me know how many 4-letter words you use before you give up on putting it together. All right, so here we have the artwork for the Star Slayer.
Oh, that looks so much better.
Yeah, let's see what the notes here are. Yeah, so the note that it's like definitely asymmetrical and several iterations before they found the right idea. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of hard pressed to see major differences between those, other than you know, full ink and not full ink. I mean, I do like it. It's definitely an improvement. But I've got the feeling this is just the final sketch and not the other iterations here.
Well, even in the sketch, the legs are different between the two sketches.
Yeah. Chad must have a more critical eye than I do here, apparently.
This one has a higher waist and kneecaps than the one on the left.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I see it. Alright.
So they were probably telling him the one on the left looked too squat, so he lengthened the legs for the one on the right.
Yeah. The up around the cockpit looks a little different, too.
Yeah, looks a little more reinforced.
Yeah.
You got two of what looks like, if it was a person, would be pockets on the one that they ended up using versus the one on the
Yeah,
on
so
the
yeah, I
left.
guess if you stare at it long enough, you can start to, or at least I can if I stare at it for a while. So all right, moving on. The Galleon light tank. Okay, so they're saying that they really pushed the design hard to make sure it would stack up to the other tanks, but they wanted to retain the important elements. And yeah, you can see here the primary turret went through a lot of different changes.
I like the middle one for
That's
the turret.
That's what the turret on the Devastator looks like. The Devastator tank.
I don't like this on the top one, how it's standing up like that.
Yeah, you'd think that'd be a liability.
Kinda is.
Now, Chad, in a setting with 40-foot tall robots, that's not a liability. 40-foot tall robots a liability. So here we have some of the 3D renders of the Star Slayer.
Look at those toes.
Yeah, it mentions here that because of the asymmetry and everything, that it's a design that really kind of pushes battle techiness to use a word they definitely don't use in there that I just made up. So moving on, here's the tank. Oh, they went for the gun Chad didn't care for. But now the inside of this tank actually probably would be an awful lot like the tank from the last Crusade.
Most light tanks are more like APCs, anyways.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, that's an armored personnel carrier.
Yeah, so here we have them painted up, the renders. So we have the Star Slayer and the Free Wrestlehead Republic second
Cavalieri.
Cavalry. And then
Shrek is a dismal.
Disinherited.
Yes.
Don't know. I'm going to guess Mercenaries on that one.
Nah, that's probably a house one. Lao or Curito, where it's whoever's been disinherited gets shoved in there.
Well, if it's Korea, if they get disinherited, they commit seppuku.
Fine, it's probably a Lao unit.
The Lao are allowed redemption to a point.
Yeah, you put them in the disinherited unit, and if they do good, they can slowly start working their way back towards the family.
All right, so moving on. Here we have the Star Slayer in action. I really like this.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is
because
nice.
if you noticed, I'm going to go back a few pages here real quick. If you noticed here,
5 jump jets.
yes, there are lots of jump jets built into the back of this thing. So going back forward again now. Back forward, yeah, that makes sense. Uh, yeah, so in action, jumping, firing, looks pretty cool. Let's see here. Here's the galleon light tank sitting somewhere. I don't even know if that's meant to be a breeze with the antennas or if they're just naturally cocked that way.
Is it just sitting there, or is what's coming out of it like dust clouds?
You might be right. I just took that for background, but that could be a dust cloud or something. Yeah, I just took towards like the end of the treads. I didn't really see anything really going on there, so
There's a ladder on the side of the thing.
yeah, I'm sure there's a hatch up on top. I know there was a little one in the back in the other drawing,
Yeah.
but I imagine there's got to be one on top. There might be one directly on top of that. But there's almost definitely one up there, so a spotter can stand up or something. So, because at least on a modern battle tank, there'd be a machine gun up there too. For those of you who don't know, the machine gun on the top of the tank is actually not an anti-personnel weapon. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be an anti-vehicle weapon if like a jeep or something comes up and you don't want to use the main gun on it. So yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. Anyway,
I would like to point out, if I'm in any situation where people are coming and firing at me, no matter from what type of mobility, I'm shooting with what I have.
well, I'm sure that's what happens in most cases, but you know, and I wouldn't blame the tank crew at all.
I mean, I've seen the Humvee run in Black Hawk Down.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen the movie. You have to tell me about it later to remind me, but I have seen it. All right, so moving on. Here we have production models. Yeah, yeah, I do like the asymmetric look of the Star Sailor. That's why I almost bought the metal one, as crazy as it looked. 'Cause it looked different.
So why won't they give us an asymmetrical tank?
Uh, I'm pretty sure there is one. You just have to let me think about it for a moment. Well, the current version of the Devastator, because I know it's going to get an upgrade in here too, if I remember correctly. The gun, while the turret's asymmetrical because it's centered, it has a main gun, but also another one to the down and to the left. Instead of like side by side or three in a triangle or anything, it's asymmetrical. So yeah. So moving on, here we have them painted up. And these are Star League paint jobs based on the symbol over there. Also, note a little bit of action there on the base, adding some stuff, some pipes, I believe.
I wonder if that comes naturally on the base then.
No. Highly doubt it.
Darn.
So, moving on from this. Yeah, I'm going to assume same Star League paint scheme here.
Well, probably. Painted by the same guy.
Then we have the Star Slayer would be found in the Recognition Guide, Volume 26, and the Galleon Light Tank would be in 27. As a side note on those, with the final one finally being printed up, well, not printed up, these are PDFs, they are going to start to work on compiling them for a print TRO type book. Not everything in these is going to make it, but apparently a lot of it will. So that'll be nice to see when it finally comes out. Because as I mentioned before, I prefer the print copies. Then we have the Innocent and Defenseless, like we've already mentioned, so I'm going to move on from that. Then the same two other books here, and the same Maradoni Light Horse stuff here, and the same splash page to say, hey, go check us out over here, which again, you should. All right, so that is it for the previews themselves. Then jumping over to the forums, the one other product that has been mentioned is a new novel that has just come out. This is available, or will very shortly be available in print, if you prefer that. This is part 3 of the Forgotten Worlds. I have no idea when parts 1 and 2 came out, because I don't remember them. Which isn't to say that I didn't just totally miss them, but they have not been recent to the best of my knowledge. You'll note the symbol down there is a mushroom cloud for the era. So, it'll be right there, which means this takes place during the Word of Blake Jihad. And if you read the little blurb down here for it, it does definitely involve the Word of Blake. Sounds like some Mane Domini cyborgs and all kinds of fun stuff. So, yeah. It's all about getting away from the Word of Blake. So, could be interesting. Got to check it out. Then we got launch party updates. And that's pretty much everything that we're going to do with the computer for the moment. Maybe. Stop this guy here. Okay, so that's pretty well everything that we're going to be discussing there. I do just want to note that, as I have mentioned in a few other videos recently, I did, in fact, get a copy of the Damocles Sanction, and I have read the Damocles Sanction finally. So a book review for this, and possibly a number of other books, will be shortly following this video. Hopefully, that's the plan. We'll see how that pans out, but that's the plan. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I have. Chad, anything you want to throw in there? Commentary, questions?
No.
Comments?
No.
Are we going to spend $1,000 on this Kickstarter too, or? Yeah, folks, to be clear, while I hate to say it, that did actually happen for me on the last one, a couple things facilitated that. Number one, I sold a bunch of older BattleTech stuff. That's what paid for like 2/3 of that. And number two, the pledge manager was open forever and then opened again between the shipping waves.
Yeah.
Because of the delays from COVID and everything. So that's when I just had a bunch of more money, and I was like, well, why not?
I could use another box set and 10 boot or packs.
Yeah, well, fortunately this time it looks like there's probably going to be fewer sets. So,
thank goodness. That means I can get multiples of the ones I really, really want.
Yeah, so because of that, as long as there's not more added to it as they pass stretch goals. See, the last Kickstarter, the first one, had the box set, and they only had announced 4 packs, 2 lances and 2 stars, and like that. Well, that was what they had, and they blew past every goal they had put out on. I think it's day one, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
We were at work just watching the total just rack up on it
Mm-hmm.
into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the company later on, I believe they admitted that they expected at the outside $1 million, and that like they thought that was the top. That wasn't what they were expecting. They were expecting several 100,000. They weren't expecting 1 million. They thought that's
That's hopes and dreams
yeah.
level.
And I believe altogether, I think it brought in over 6 million, if I remember correctly.
They hit 1 million before we even left work,
Yeah, yeah, it
and we
was
went to work like at 4 in the morning.
yeah, and it launched probably at noon, and yeah, it was crazy. So because of that, they had to keep filling stretch goals, which means they just had to keep like, okay, here's more sets, here's more
What's
sets.
this crazy thing we can come up with now to
Yeah,
throw in there?
and so they just kept adding and adding and adding more and more sets of mechs. So they've already said this time they don't plan on doing that. I would imagine they have some in reserve that they could add if it goes to some astronomical numbers, but I'm expecting more like probably maps, promises of future novels, more like the pins and the card decks, and maybe dice that are actually good dice. There's a whole story about that, folks. It's not good. The dice for the last one were not good for some people. They would get like 2 dice for the same faction, and one die was bigger than the other one. Like clearly not quality controlled. And the tolerance for that is supposed to be like less than 5% being defective. And I think, if I recall correctly, they ultimately figured something like 20 to 30% of them were defective. Now, none of mine were as near as I can tell. I think I've got one die that's ever so slightly smaller than its partner, but it's almost imperceptible. So I didn't care. But a little note, if you happen to have engaged in that and you want your money back for those dice, talk to the fine people at Catalyst. They will do that. Also, see them about the card decks that you didn't receive, because if you bought basically anything, you're missing card decks.
Yep.
Uh, but they're making good on that, which is why I'm going to give them money again. But probably not as much this time. But we'll see. But anyway, if that's it, then I'd like to thank you folks for watching. Definitely check out the Twitter thing that I've hopefully put back down here again. Uh, then I put it in the last few videos. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Always like that. Let us know in the comments what you think. Anything you want to see. We are trying to work out the videos we have mentioned as far as the factions and the ones I mentioned as far as the clans. But those are going to be a little bit more like not necessarily a script, but I definitely want to have a lot of notes handy to make sure I get all the high points, because I don't want to half-ass those. So they are taking a little while, and because we want them to look good, you know, hopefully. That's the goal anyway. So the next thing will very likely be the book reviews, and we will see what our next step will be as far as showing Brad how to play the game. Um, and then somewhere in there will probably be as it stands, it's going to be the Highlanders first. So I've already got the theme music picked out for that video. I think you folks will appreciate it. If not, well, you'll know what it's like fighting the Highlanders in battle. Uh, you'll get that whenever you see the video. But anyway, thank you folks for watching, and see you later.